Today we will be looking at solving equations with variables on one side. Before we can look at solving equations, we have to understand inverse operations. Inverse operations are mathematical operations that undo each other. For example, adding and subtracting are inverse operations. That means that adding undoes subtraction and subtraction undoes addition. For example, 3 plus 5 equals 8. But if we take 8 and subtract 5, we get back to 3. Plus 5 and minus 5 cancel out. Similarly, 8 minus 3 equals 5, and 5 plus 3 takes us back to 8. So negative 3 and positive 3 cancel each other out. Multiplying and dividing are also inverse operations. This means that multiplying undoes dividing, and dividing undoes multiplying. 6 times 7 equals 42, but 42 divided by 7 equals 6. Times 7 and divide by 7 cancel each other out. Similarly, 42 divided by 6 equals 7, and 7 times 6 equals 42. So dividing by 6 and multiplying by 6 cancel each other out. These are the inverse operations that you will need to know in order to correctly solve equations with variables on one side. You will also need to know the golden rule of algebra, which states that you do unto one side of the equation what you do to the other. So if you add 5 on one side, you have to add 5 on the other. If you divide by 2 on one side, you have to divide by 2 on the other. You can never make a move to one side that you don't make to the other side as well. Let's start by looking at simple one-step equations. If you look in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see we have the equation x plus 10 equals 15. To undo the adding 10 and get x by itself, we have to do the opposite, or the inverse operation. So we subtract 10 from both sides, because if we do it to one side, we must do it to the other, to get x equals 5. If you go to the upper right-hand corner, we have x minus 7 equals 4. To undo subtracting 7, we have to add 7. So you add 7 to both sides and get x equals 11, because 4 plus 7 is 11. Here we have 2 times x equals negative 24. To undo multiplying by 2, we have to divide by 2, shown in red. Once you divide by 2 on both sides, the 2's on this side cancel, because multiplying by 2 and dividing by 2 are inverse operations, and negative 24 divided by 2 gives us negative 12. So we get our answer of x equals negative 12. The last one on the lower right-hand corner of your screen is x divided by 3 equals 10. To undo division, we have to multiply, so we will multiply by 3 on both sides. In multiplying by 3, we get 10 times 3, or 30. Here, the division and multiplication cancel each other out, and so we're left with x equals 30 as our solution. These are very basic one-step equations that require you to make one mathematical calculation to solve. Now let's look at two-step equations. These are a little bit more complex, and we have to work from away from x all the way to x, meaning that on the side of the equation, for example, 2x minus 10 equals 18, before we can deal with the 2, we must deal with the negative 10. So to undo subtraction, we add 10 to both sides, leaving us with the equation 2x equals 28, because 18 plus 10 equals 28. And then it's a one-step equation from here where we divide by 2 on both sides to get x equals 14. If you look in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, we have the equation negative 3x plus 1 equals 7. We know that before we do anything, we need to get rid of this plus 1. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. So we will subtract 1 from both sides. 7 minus 1 leaves us with 6. The negative 3x we haven't done anything to, so it comes down. So we have the equation negative 3x equals 6. And again, to undo this multiplication, because it's negative 3 times x, we divide by negative 3 on both sides to get our solution of x equals negative 2. On the bottom, we're going to go through the same process. Before we can solve the equation x divided by 4 plus 6 equals 3, we have to get rid of this plus 6. So to undo addition, we will subtract, so we subtract 6 from both sides. 3 minus 6 gives us negative 3. So we have the equation x divided by 4 equals negative 3. And then we multiply by 4 on both sides to undo this division, and negative 3 times 4 gives us negative 12. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see that we have x divided by 2 minus 9 equals 6. The first step is to add 9 to both sides, leaving us with the equation x divided by 2 equals 15, because 6 plus 9 is 15. And then to undo the division by 2, we have to multiply by 2 on both sides, and 15 times 2 gives us 30, while on the other side the 2's cancel and we are left with just x. These are examples of solving two-step equations where it requires two mathematical calculations to solve. The last kind of equation you'll look at today is a multi-step equation. Multi-step equations typically are just two-step equations. However, before you can solve them, you must combine like terms and things that are similar. If we read the first equation, 3x plus 5 plus 5x minus 4 equals 17, we see that there's a lot going on. What we've done in yellow here is we've underlined the terms that have x's, because we'll combine those, and we've boxed the terms that are simply numbers, and we will combine those as well. So in combining them, 3x plus 5x gives us 8x, and plus 5 and minus 4 together make positive 1. So we have the equation 8x plus 1 equals 17. From here we solve them just like we would a two-step equation. Subtract 1 from both sides to get 8x equals 16, then divide by 8 to get rid of that multiplication by 8, and 16 divided by 8 gives us our answer of x equals 2. On the right-hand side, you'll see we have the equation negative 2x plus 10 plus x minus 5 equals 13. Now, one thing I want to point out before we combine any terms is this plus x. Whenever we see x by itself, we assume there is a 1 in front of it. There's an imaginary 1 that we don't write all the time. So we're going to do the same thing we did on the left-hand equation, and we're going to combine what we call like terms. So negative 2x and positive 1x are like terms. Negative 2 plus 1 makes negative 1, so we have negative 1x. Plus 10 and minus 5 together make positive 5, because 10 minus 5 is 5. So we have the equation negative 1x plus 5 equals 13. From here again, it's just a two-step equation. We will subtract 5 from both sides to get rid of the addition of 5, and then we have the equation negative 1x equals 8. From here we need to get rid of the multiplication by negative 1, so to undo multiplication we use its inverse operation of division and divide by negative 1 on both sides. Once you divide by negative 1, we get 8 divided by negative 1, leaves us with our answer of x equals negative 8. Why don't you try a few equations? Now would be a good time to pause the video, write down the equations, and solve them before letting the video continue. Up next will be the answers to these questions, so you can check your work and find out if you're on the right track or know what questions you need to ask tomorrow in class. Go ahead and pause the video now while you try your 3 problems in the summary section of your notes. Go ahead and take a look at the solutions here. On the first equation, we get the solution x equals 13. On the second equation, we get the solution x equals 3. And on the third equation, we get the solution x equals 4. Take a look, see if you got them right, and bring in any questions you have to class on Monday. Have a great weekend, guys.